In Japan this week, G7 leaders are supposedly accusing China of economic coercion. Beijing's foreign ministry has refuted the allegation, urging G7 members to, quote, not to harm the interests of many for the selfish interests of the few. Who are the few, and what is the real threat to the world's economic security?
No one is more qualified than the U.S. to be called out for economic coercion.
Wang Wenbin went on to say that G7 host Japan knows this the best, referring to the Plaza Accord in 1985. The agreement, signed by what was then the G5 nations, coerced Japan to implement a looser monetary policy that allowed the dollar to depreciate against the Japanese yuan, increasing the cost of Japanese exports. Japan's GDP fell by nearly $1 trillion. Inflation was nearly zero. Some economists blame the US-led agreement for puncturing Japan's asset price bubble and the two lost decades that followed. In the 1980s, Japan was the world's second largest economy. Now China is. Is something similar happening again? Alleging national security concerns, the US banned Chinese telecom companies Huawei and ZTE, and efforts are underway to ban TikTok. Washington is trying to persuade its allies to ban other tech sector products and services from China. Adding to the disruption of the global supply chain, the US has restricted exports to China and again asked its allies to do the same.
The U.S. has been browbeating relevant countries into economic decoupling from China, imposing science-tech blockade on China and suppressing Chinese companies.
In Beijing's view, Washington wants to contain China's rise and will continue to lobby its allies about China's alleged threat to their economies. U.S. accusation amid key facts about the benefits of the trade with China. A World Bank study says China's Belt and Road Initiative will lift 7.6 million people out of extreme poverty and 32 million out of moderate poverty globally. An International Monetary Fund analysis shows China is set to account for around 1/3 of global growth in 2023. Unlike the US, China says it has never initiated economic sanction. Biden administration review of economic sanction in 2021 showed a 930% increase in sanctions in the 2 decades since 9/11 attacks. By China's tally, the US has imposed economic sanction on nearly 40 countries, which have affected almost half of the global population. In China's view, when it comes to global economic security, the risk of Washington defaulting on its debt should be high on G7 agenda. Economists also warned a US default would, quote, blow up the global financial system. Who then is the real threat? You decide.